It is coming up to that time of the year, you know, it really is, where everybody they've got one thing on their mind, you know, and it's those same three words that lots of people just love and love and love to hear. Trick or treat. That's it. You know what I'm saying? You're going to get candy when you say those three words. Those other three words I love you don't promise you candy and roses, but trick or treat, you show up at the right door, get the good knock, trick or treat, and chances are you're going to get something. Now, some of us have the Charlie Brown effect, where everybody else is candy bar, rock. You know? And speaking of that, I wouldn't go, I won't go there, because that was just a funny show. The other day they had Charlie Brown, and then they had Charlie Brown election. I'm like, when did they put an election? Boy, they've done got Charlie Brown now involved in politics, which just blew me away. But, so here we are. People realize they're going to get something on Halloween. They know how to knock, if they know how to dress up right, if they know, they can go in there and they can fill up their little bag. It's just become a slogan. It's become, you know, something you can say trick or treat, and everybody, chances are, around the world, or at least those who have internet access, are going to be able to tell you what is expected when that trick or treat is called. You know what, the Halloween thing that's out, you know, and what's going on with it, it's I'm not even going to go into the spiritual aspects and this and other. I just want to talk this morning about how our lives, if we are not careful, then we will end up being the tricked, and there won't be a treat when it comes to that. I want to go back this morning. I told you to talk from Genesis up to 1 Samuel. But I want to read you this scripture that Jesus tells us about our adversary, which is the devil. His words are this in John 10:10. The thief come not, but for to steal, to kill, and to destroy. I am come that they might have life, and that they might have it more abundantly. In other words, I've come to give you life. I've come to give you peace. I've come to straighten out, Jesus was saying, what has gone wrong in the past period. Let's go back to the past, and let's look and see how it was originally set up for us anyways. If you go back to Genesis, it says, through Genesis 1, and you work your way on up. Oh, nope, now I lost all my parts here. Oh, there it is. It says, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. All right, that's Genesis 1:1. And when you go from verse 2 to 28, let me give you just a brief synopsis of what you're going to read. It says, you're going to read where it says that God said, let it be. Or that God made the animals. God made the light. God made the firmament. Or that God called and said that it was good. Or God called something into existence. And some of the scriptures say that God saw. God saw this and it was good. God could see this. He saw His creation that He had made. And then the other word was that God had created. God created a world, a utopia for us in that Garden of Eden. Everything that was set up, everything that was there was so that we could, just like Jesus come back in John 10:10, and so that we could have life and that we could have it more abundantly. The Garden of Eden was set to where they didn't have to do nothing. All Adam and Eve had to do was get up every day, and things were provided for them. God had laid out the plan. But Satan can't stand it. Satan can't stand it when he realizes, wait a minute, how come I don't get this treatment? And of course the answer is because you blew it, buddy. You're the one that took it away from yourself. You're the one that tried to come up against God. You're the one that tried to overthrow His throne, and you were put in your place and cast out. Just like all bullies, just like all people who have this mentality, mindset, and if I can't have it, you can't have it either. And if I can't have it, I'm going to make sure I make everything miserable for you so that you can't enjoy your life. That's how come the Bible says that our adversary, the devil, is out to defeat us. He's out to trip us up. He's out to trick us. He's out to steal, kill, and to destroy everything that God has made good for you. Now let's go back to Genesis. Here's Adam and Eve. The Bible says, boy, they would walk with God in the cool of the day in the garden. They could hear his voice. They knew he was there. He was with them. There was love and there was a bond. But one day, somebody knocked on the door and said, trick or treat. It says the serpent in chapter 3 was way more subtle than any beast of the field, which the Lord God hath made. And he said to the woman, yea, hath God said, ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden? And the woman said to the serpent, we may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God hath said, ye shall not eat it, neither shall you touch it, lest ye die. And the serpent said to the woman, ye shall not surely die. For God doth know that in the day that ye eat thereof, then your eyes shall be opened, and you shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. Here that serpent is. Here's Adam and Eve, and the Bible says if you read through there, Adam and Eve walking together. It wasn't just Eve went out for a little stroll by herself, but both of them were out walking, and right off the bat, the devil, the old serpent, comes up. The Bible says more subtle, more tricky, more elusive, more sweet talking, whatever the word may be. He was all that and then some. And he said, didn't God tell you you could eat of everything that was here? Didn't he say that everything that he created, didn't he say that everything was for your benefit? And he said, well, yes, as a matter of fact, he did. And he said, didn't he say you can eat of all the trees? Yes, we can eat of everything. Oh, except for there's one in the middle. We can't eat of that one. And we can't even touch it lest we die. Tell somebody you can have the whole world except for this one thing. And you know what's going to be on their mind, right? That one thing. They're not going to care that they've got everything else but just that one thing. Dunkin' Donuts proved this years and years ago. You got a donut, but what is that bad? Like, oh, the donut's got a hole in the middle. I'm getting ripped off of what I paid for. There should have been more donut there. So what did they do? They come back with a good marketing scheme. We're going to charge you even more. If you want your little munchkin hole here, then you can have the holes. You just got to pay more. And what do? Oh, I got to have it all. Was so worried we were getting the donut, but we wanted what we thought we was missing as well. Satan's coming up. What do you mean you're going to die? He loves you too much. You're not going to die. You're not going to just fade away. He's just telling you that because that's part of, that's his only. Here's the devil. Can't you just see the devil making up stuff as he's going? No. You're going to, that's probably the best tasting fruit. That's why he don't want y'all to have it. He saves that one for himself. You can just see, hear, or I can just hear and see the lies that the devil just tried to tempt Eve with. Didn't matter that she had everything else she needed. How many times do we sit there and because something, we see somebody with something, we read about something, we fall prey to the marketing schemes that's out there, and we think, I don't really need that, but boy, it sure would be fun to have, or I sure would enjoy it. Colton and I were talking. I remember as a kid getting these, well, Mom got them, all these Christmas magazines from, like you've got all the ham and the cheese places. Then there's all these gifts. These magazines are this thing. All these gifts that you never see anywhere, but they're so cool. And then you get the ones that's this thick, full of chocolate, truffles, candies, cakes. And it's like, geez, and oh, it looks so good. And it just sits there, and he was like, yeah, it's the kind of stuff that just makes you sit there and you just look at it, and you want it, and you want it, and you want it, but you don't really need it. You never even knew it was there, really, until you get the magazine laid before you, and then once it's there, then all of a sudden you want it even more. But then your eye stares down, and it gets to that price tag. And sometimes that's all I need. Cheapskate here ain't buying that, I can go buy a whole ice cream thing for $5. I ain't paying $48 for 2 little frozen truffles, And the price of it just turns me off. When we look, and I like, well, we're going through life, everything's going good, and all of a sudden, Satan throws something out there, some catalog, some book, something, that we never even knew we had an option for. And we get to looking at it, we don't need it. And we lay the magazine down, we walk off. Next night we come back, oh, look at this magazine. Oh, I mean, there's some cool stuff here. Get going through it, get right back to that. Boy, that sure would be nice to have. I don't need it. I don't want it. But it sure would be cool. I can see right now that's 5 pounds added, but it's just one time. Let me just treat myself one time. Let me look at that price. I just don't know if I'm going to pay that price. Then you get to work, you get to wherever, you get off with your friends. Hey, did y'all ever try those? Y'all ever get this magazine? I got this magazine, it's got this. And next thing they start talking about, oh, they bought it. Well, you're like, that's it, I never have it. Well, you go home, you order that thing, it comes in, and you're just like, you know, it really wasn't all I thought it was going to be. Satan is going to put stuff in your life, in your Christian life. He's going to put it out there, and he's going to try his best to make you try it. He's going to try his best to make you like it. He's going to try his best to make you get hooked on it and want more. But the whole time, you got to be thinking, is what Satan putting out before me worth the price tag at the end? Is what I'm looking at, is what I'm being tempted with, is the things that's being brought before me going to be worth the price tag? Because if I stay living for God, if I stay on path for Him, I know my victory, my joy is going to be in one day I'm going to reach heaven as my home. One day I'm going to be able to walk upon those streets of gold. And if He's got streets of gold, gates of pearl, walls of jasper, and He's got the river of life, and He's got the fruit trees and all this up there, chances are He's also got Willy Wonka's chocolate river and all the candy. So if I'm really wanting it bad enough, if I'll hang on to what God says, one day I'll be able to get up there and go through the Wonka Vader or the Jesus Vader and get up there to heaven and get my reward. I won't have to worry about the temptations that's on this earth. I can make it through if I look at the price tag and if I look at who's offered it to me. Now God is going to bless. God is going to make sure excuse me, that we're getting what we're supposed to have. Did not Jesus say, life and more abundantly? Did not God supply the garden with everything they needed and told them, don't even worry about it. I've got this set up for you. Everything. But temptation brought them out. They didn't look at what God said. They didn't look at what God had told them. But instead, they gave in to the temptation. If you read through there, I told you, Adam was walking right with Eve. It says the serpent gave it to Eve, and then she took of it. And then it says she turned and gave it to Adam. I'm sitting there wanting, dude, what was you doing? What was you thinking? Letting her eat it, number one. Number two, why did you bite it? You know, you had the same price tag written out. Why did you bite it? Buddy did. Next story. In 1 Samuel, chapter 28, and I had turned to it, Saul, the first king, we went from the first people that God writes about or tells us about in the Bible, to the first king of Israel. Saul is sitting there and he has lost favor with God. David is rising up through the ranks. Samuel has done anointed him to be the king. And Saul, like I say, he's losing it. He's getting further and further and further away from God. Everything that he's trying to do is coming to naught. He loses. You know, we all know what the Bible says. He loses temper, throw the spears at David, try to kill him, try to run him off, try to have him killed. Everything he tried to do to put down David because he knew David was going to be the new king. But yet it wouldn't work because David was God's anointed man. Now they're coming to this great time of battle. And in verse 28, it says, it came to pass that the Philistines gathered their armies together for warfare to fight with Israel. And Shish said unto David, know thou surely that thou shalt go out with me to battle, thou and thy men. And David said, surely I know that thou and thy servant can do. And Ashish said to David, therefore I will make thee keeper of mine head forever. Now Samuel the prophet, verse 4, was dead, or verse 3. And all Israel had lamented him and buried him in Ramah, even in his own city. And Saul had put away those that had familiar spirits and the wizards out of the land. And the Philistines gathered themselves together and came and pitched in Shunem, and Saul gathered all of Israel together, and they pitched in Gilboa. And Saul saw the host of the Philistines, and he was afraid, and his heart greatly trembled. And when Saul inquired of the Lord answered him not, neither by dream, nor by Urim, nor by the prophets. Samuel had died, they'd done buried him. David, he's sitting up on the side over here. He's not out in the fight with his men all on himself, knowing what's coming, but he had done told God, I'm not going to touch the anointed one. I'm not going to touch the king that's set up. That was, by God's law. So David is fighting, David's preparing, and Saul is getting ready to go to battle. And it says, nobody can talk to God for him. The priests, the prophets, nor himself. Saul had given into the temptations that Satan had offered, and he had lost contact with God, period. Here he was, the first king that God himself called from the crowd, the one that God told the people, this will be your king. Just like Adam and Eve were the first people, Saul was the first king. He was highly favored, he was blessed, but he let the temptations, he let the trials and the struggles of this world bring him down to where he no longer, he no longer could contact God. Boy, that's when you really find yourself in trouble. Now, there are times, folks, when we're going to walk in faith. There are times we might be going through troubles, we might be going through trials, and we might feel that God doesn't love us, God doesn't care for us, but we're still reading His Word, we're still praying. It's a time of a drought, and you're going through it, and some of those times, God is seeing if you're willing to walk by faith. If you're willing to hang on knowing that word, if you're willing to hang on knowing how much you love Him and He loves you, and still walk. But there are times like this one that Saul was in where he had turned his back on God so many times, where he had done everything against God's will, and done everything for himself to try to better himself, and God's Spirit had been pulled away. Saul had the opportunity to make the biggest change, to make the biggest help within his country, but he heard that knock. And he heard those three words, trick or treat. And here was Satan offering him the world, the kingdoms, yet it wasn't his to offer. Remember what Jesus said? When he was in Luke, when he was drawn out, so the Spirit carried him away. I think it was in Luke 4. And it says the Spirit carried him away. And it says he hadn't ate for 40 days, and here comes the devil up saying, hey, turn this stone into bread. Jesus said, no, man, it's not live by bread alone. The Word of God says it, it's written. And then He says, jump off here and look around, I'll give you all the kingdom. Jump off, and the next time, jump off. 3 times He tempted him to do something, yet each time Jesus was able to withstand the temptations, and the Bible said that Satan left. But here's Saul not being able to withstand the temptations that this world had to offer. And he went further and further and further. Y'all heard that old saying, sin, that's actually the scripture, sin will take you further than you ever want to go. You get the first just doing little things. Then it's bigger things. And before long, you're doing things that you don't think anything about, because sin has taken over. Let me go through here. It says, verse 7, Then said Saul unto his servant, Seek me a woman with a familiar spirit, that I may go to her and inquire of her. And his servant said to him, Behold, there is a woman that hath a familiar spirit at Endor. And Saul disguised himself and put on other raiment, and he went, and 2 men went with him, and they came to the woman by night, and he said, I pray thee, divine unto me by the familiar spirit, and bring me him up, whom I shall name unto thee. Going back to the trick or treat, you ever wonder what it say Saul did? Saul put on a mask, put on different raiment, and he changed his look so nobody would know who he was. And then he says he went out by night. In the darkness of the night. Remember how Nicodemus come to Jesus in the darkness of the night? Comes so nobody else can see. So here is Saul disguising himself up, going out at night. The only thing that it doesn't say was that he carried his plastic pumpkin, but everything else, he went out just like a trick-or-treater, and he gets to knocking on the woman's door. Hey, I need you to do me a favor. What you need? I need you to call a man. I need you to call him. I need some information from him. I need you to call him back up. And she's like, now you do know that, this ain't right. We've all been run out of the, country. And who are you needing me to call from the dead? That's a long distance call. Who are you needing me to make this call to? And it says, the woman said it to him. Behold, thou knowest what Saul hath done. He's cut up all those that have familiar spirits and wizards out of the land. Wherefore, then layest thou a snare for my life to cause me to die? She said, are you just trying to trick me? Are you sent to try to pull the wool over my eyes? Are you sent to try to get to where I'm going to suffer the price? And Saul sware to her by the Lord, saying, as the Lord liveth, there shall no punishment happen to thee for this thing. The woman said, whom shall I bring up unto thee? And he said, bring me up Samuel. Saul knew Samuel was honest and straightforward with him the whole time. He kept telling him, quit trying to follow the world. Start following God. Lay off with the temptations of Satan and follow God. But Saul never would listen. And when the woman saw Samuel, so we're looking here, you're reading through the scripture, you're reading the Bible right with me. It says that when the woman saw Samuel, let me just throw a little bit of controversial thought for you. Don't think too much on it. Just know that, it's what it says. Evidently, her phone call worked. Y'all understand that, right? Her call to dead land. We get dead air on our cell phones. Evidently, she could call the dead land. It says she called, and when she saw Samuel, she cried with a loud voice. The woman spoke to Saul, saying, why hast thou deceived me? For thou art Saul. She said, hold on, I see Samuel, here he comes, but I also now know that you are Saul himself. You are the king who made this law. Why have you deceived me? We get to going down the road that we get to going down in life, and we might try to pull the wool over some people's eyes. We might try to do this. We might try to pull the wool over our own eyes. But eventually somebody is going to realize who you are. Eventually the truth is going to hit home, and eventually you got to pay the price. And we're going through here, and the king said, be not afraid. And you go through here in Samuel, actually, verse 15. It says, Samuel said to Saul, I guess you put him on video chat, why hast thou disquieted me, or disrupted me, disturbed me, to bring me up? And Saul answered, I am sore distressed, for the Philistines make war against me, and God is departed from me, and answereth me no more, neither by prophets nor by dreams. Therefore I have called thee, that thou mayest make known unto me what I should do. And Samuel then said, Samuel, wherefore then dost thou ask of me, seeing the Lord is departed from thee, and has become thine enemy? Boy, aren't those some bad answers? Samuel's sitting there saying, he said, what do you want from me? Why are you calling me from the dead? Here I am. I'm not even there no more. I've been dead and buried. Why are you getting this woman to call up me and ask me this? Why do you need to talk to me? And Saul said, well, you know what? He says, God just ain't listening to me anymore. I try to talk to him. I try to talk to him through the priests, through the prophets, and nobody, they just don't listen. And oh, those words, one more time of truth. And Samuel says, well, dude, if God has turned his back on you, if God ain't talking to you, what in the world could I do? What in the world do you want me for? I'm just here Satan right now laughing in the background. Trick or treat. Trick or treat. You got your little pumpkin full of candy bars. You had your little life. But all of a sudden it hits home. Did you ever, I didn't ever do this, of course, but get home from trick-or-treating when you was a little kid, and you eat every popcorn ball because your logic is these popcorn balls are going to go stale. So I better eat all of them. The wrapped candy, I can save till later. Oh wait, these are homemade cupcakes. I better go ahead and eat these too because they will go stale. There's brownies. There's all these different, because back off in our days, a lot of homemade food that you could trust, you know. And you could save the candy till later. And by night time, didn't you regret everything that you ate? I mean, the sugar high here and crash to here. Sick as you could be. Miserable. You're sitting there saying, oh, I'll never do that again. At least not for another 363 days. Or 63 and a half, you know. I'll never do it again till next time. Saul was sitting there. Too many next times. The Spirit of God had gone. The Bible tells us, or Paul says, come out from among them and be ye separate, saith the Lord, and touch not the unclean thing, and I will receive you. 2 Corinthians, he says this, and no marvel, for Satan himself is transformed into an angel of light. Be you not unequally yoked together with unbelievers, for what fellowship hath righteousness with unrighteousness, and what communion hath light with darkness? And what concord hath Christ with Belial or Baal or Satan? Or what part hath he with believeth with an infidel? And what agreement hath the temple of God with idols? For ye are the temple of the living God, as God has said, I will dwell in them and walk in them, and I will be their God, and they shall be my people. Wherefore come out from among them, and be ye separate, saith the Lord, and touch not the unclean thing, and I will receive you, and will be a father unto you, and ye shall be my sons and daughters, saith the Lord Almighty. For your sons and your daughters, the Bible says. You know what happens to Saul? You know what Samuel tells him? He says, moreover, the Lord will also deliver Israel with the men into the hand of the Philistines, and tomorrow shalt thou and thy sons be with me. Man, that's a bad call. When somebody tells you, hey, tomorrow you're going to be over here with me. You know, and you said, well, wait a minute, you dead. Yeah, I know. Tomorrow you're going to be over here with me. What a bad feeling that had to be for Saul, knowing that everything that he had done, now he was fixing to pay that price. He didn't separate himself. Didn't do as he was told that he should do. Comes to the piano. Trick or treat. The devil's words. Trick or treat. If you will just do what I say, everything's going to be okay. No, you're not certainly gonna die. He's just pulling your leg. You're not gonna die. He knows you're gonna be like him. How many times has Satan tried to tell you, oh, don't worry, it's okay. He'll overlook it. You know, don't worry about it. People's done it in the past. The devil's words may be trick or treat. But I think I had rather have God call me his son, or have God call us his sons and his daughters, than to be one that's, who is that all disguised up? You know, going back to the trick-or-treat thing, the Halloween thing, isn't it funny how, just like how Saul dressed up, what I was saying earlier, he dressed up, he disguised himself, and he went out asking for favors, asking for something, you know, that just wasn't right. How many Christians in our Bible will put on the costumes and the outfits thinking, okay, let's go do this now. You know, it's okay. Nobody knows, nobody sees. God does. James 4:7. Submit yourself therefore to God, resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Draw nigh to God, and he will draw nigh to you. John 14:6. Jesus says, I am the truth, the way, the life. No man cometh to the Father but by me. This is the message which you have heard of him, and declare unto you that God is light, and in him is no darkness at all. If we say we have fellowship with him and walk in darkness, then we lie and we do not the truth. But if we walk in the light, as he is in the light, we have fellowship one with another, and the blood of Jesus Christ, the Son, cleanses us from all sin. I think I had rather be in the light, the daylight, and be all cleansed up and be all, ready to do God's work. Be ready and be in that garden that was prepared. Be there, excuse me, life and where there's life more abundantly. Living in God's world instead of living in this world without God. Don't make the mistake, the common mistake of Samuel thinking, oh, it's okay, it's okay. It's all right. It's not. He tried everything that he could to get a hold of God, everybody that he could, but he couldn't do it. So what did Satan say? Hey, have you ever tried me? Have you ever tried my ways? I can get you there. Satan might not come to each one of us nowadays and tell us, oh, I can make you if you'll just sell me that soul. You know, you see all these old, oh, he sold his soul to Satan. That's how come he's the richest person. Maybe that happens. Maybe it don't. I don't know. I'm sure it's crossed people's mind. Satan, I'll give you everything if you'll just give me the fame and fortune here. Just like how Saul went, you know. Hey, first king of Israel, tried it out, made the phone call, got in touch. So don't dilly dabble and play in this kind of stuff, because guess what? It's kind of real. It's kind of real. But so is God. More real, more powerful. Hang on to Him. Don't let Satan trick you out of the promises of God. But wait for the treat that God's got for you during this Halloween season, during all the seasons to come. God loves you. Wants you to have life and have it more abundant. You just